Now, joining me from London is writer and commentator Esther Krakue. Let's start with Rishi Sunak. He's got to go very carefully right now. He's sacked MP Lee Anderson for making these comments. Have a look at that.
Got a very cowardly Khan running London. He seems to be letting the not only the Jewish population down, but the whole population of London and Britain as a whole. And I heard the comments here. I heard the comments earlier you was making about Suella, some of the comments she made earlier this week. And I don't actually believe that these Islamists have got control of our country. But what I do believe is they've got control of Khan, and they've got control of London, and they've got control of Storm as well.
But Esther, the London Mayor Sadiq Khan called those comments Islamophobic, anti-Muslim and racist. Rishi Sunak sacked him, but now he's facing a backlash. There's reports of the inboxes of Tory MPs there are full of support for Lee Anderson. What do you make of all of this?
Well, Lee Anderson admitted himself that he left Rishi Sunak no choice but to remove the whip from him. Rishi Sunak actually asked him to either clarify or apologise for his statements. They were clumsy, they were ill thought out, and they had no basis in truth or reality. He really had no evidence that Sadiq Khan was in the pocket of Islamists. And there's so many things you could level against Sadiq Khan that I don't understand why he chose to make this cheap shot. The reality is, people like Lee Anderson and Suella Braverman were brought in to boost Rishi Sunak's credentials. They were effectively, attack dogs for the Goldman Sachs suited and booted Rishi Sunak, who really had no appeal with traditional working class or even sort of blue Tory voters. And unfortunately, because they have no effectively political instincts, they make these clumsy statements and they leave Rishi Sunak with no choice but to distance himself and the party from them. But obviously, the UK does have a problem with Islamist extremism. Obviously, we have a problem with certain groups not integrating properly into the UK and adopting British values, which is why we've seen a rise in anti-Semitism in literally every police force across the country. But to make these statements really gives a gift to people like Sadiq Khan, who are really not willing to talk about the issues at hand. They're just happy to, take these bullets and make it seem like they're the victims when there is a larger conversation to be had.
Speaking of somebody who is not unknown to make outlandish statements, we've got former US President Donald Trump. Now, he's branded Prince Harry as, quote, unforgivable after betraying the late Queen. He's also slammed the Joe Biden administration for, quote, protecting Harry over whether Harry lied about not using drugs on his visa application. How do we think this is going to play out with Donald Trump likely to be the Republican candidate?
Well, Donald Trump certainly knows how to make a headline. I'm sure if and when he does actually come back to power, he'll probably not make Prince Harry a priority for him. But, Donald Trump's admiration for the late Queen has always been very evident. He always has been very critical of Harry and Meghan in the way that they've exploited their royal titles, how they've disappointed the Queen and made the last few years of her reign really quite insufferable. But there's now a court case going on with Harry's immigration status and his immigration documents because he has admitted to using drugs, and we know that the likes of Nigella Lawson and other celebrities have been prevented from entering the US for using drugs. But for some reason, Prince Harry has been allowed to not only enter but stay in the US for the last few years. So now this is being contested. His immigration records are being requested to be unsealed, so we can actually see whether he declared having used drugs. Unfortunately, a lawyer from the Biden administration has had to stoop so low to even admit that the things that Harry said in his memoir may not have been true to try and protect Prince Harry from himself and his own blabbermouth.
Shock horror.
So we're going to see how that will play out.
Shock. What a shock, Esther. Can you imagine that? Thank you very much for talking to us.